Ladies and gentlemen, hey, hi, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Coming up here shortly with Season 1, we are going to see our first major meta update and weapon update for Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. And recently, Sledgehammer has actually given us some new insights, some new details as to what to expect with our first major meta update. So today, we're breaking all of it down, explaining what you need to be on the lookout for. As we get into it, if you enjoy the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it. Let's aim for 1,500 likes on this one. And if you're new to the channel or you simply haven't subscribed yet, let's change that, because every single day I'm your one-stop shop for quite literally everything you need to know about Call of Duty, whether it's MW3 or Warzone. So be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those post notifications. Now, as far as the timing with this goes, Sledgehammer does end up confirming throughout this video that we are going to have some major meta updates happening with Season 1 in early December and also Season 1 Reloaded in early 2024. That said, it is also possible that we see some other meta updates and weapon changes before then. You may recall that just a couple of days back, actually, we had a slight meta update go out with some changes to some of the rifles and the SMGs, which actually is one of the first things that Sledgehammer talked about doing here that we'll get to in just a moment. So that was sort of the beginning of their drastic changes made to balance things out there. So it is possible that we see more expansions upon that before Season 1 drops. And if that's the case, if there's patch notes for those with details, you guys know I'm gonna be covering them right as they happen, so stay tuned for that. Other than that, we can expect a lot of this to be changing with Season 1 here in early December. But as far as these specifics go, this is all courtesy of Sledgehammer's AMA over on Reddit. We actually covered this in pretty good detail a little bit ago. However, they actually answered some additional questions that give us even more insight into the upcoming meta update. The first change, though, is very specific. It's actually for hardcore specifically, and it's just for the RGL 80. There were some questions about hardcore gameplay in this Ask Me Anything, and Sledgehammer ended up mentioning that in a future update, we're going to see some adjustments for hardcore for the scatter mine, because it's a tactical that insta kills you if you walk over it, which doesn't seem very tactical. That seems more lethal if you ask me. But also the RGL 80, the grenade launcher, or the only launcher that we have in the game right now, it is doing too much damage in hardcore. I'll tell you what, if you're going for your camo challenges, core versus hardcore, night and day. That thing is awful in core unless you are getting an exact direct impact. At least in hardcore, the splash damage, if they don't have EOD, makes it a lot more usable, and the different challenges for it, the double kills and whatnot, way easier. So if you're going for those camos, definitely get those done ASAP, because the RGL 80 is going to become significantly weaker in hardcore here very soon. So definitely a big change for that specific style of gameplay. They also gave us a bit more of a broad overview in terms of the upcoming meta updates and weapon changes. They do say weapon balancing is one of the biggest things we are looking at on a daily basis. Our goal is to have a meta shift from season to season to keep things fresh and interesting. That being said, we want as many weapons as possible to be viable to suit the variety of playstyles we have in our community. This is where we are looking closely at data to target immediate tweaks for weapons that seem to be over or underperforming. We expect Season 1 to have higher level tweaks, with Season 1.5 to have some deeper changes. So as I mentioned, they do confirm Season 1 is going to have a decent amount of weapon changes, some more of the base ones. Basically, it's going to be, you know, buffing some of the very weak weapons, nerfing some of the very strong weapons, and then once we get into Season 1.5 or Season 1 Reloaded in early 2024, they're going to take a closer look at the meta and make some more minute adjustments or minuscale adjustments to directly balance things out, probably within specific weapon categories, and it'll be a little bit more in depth then. But this does confirm that some of those more dominant weapons right now probably going to see some nerfs here soon. But they also mentioned they want to keep things as diverse as possible to have a, you know, variety of weapons that are in the meta. And so similar to MW2, I wouldn't be surprised if when we do have weapons that are very broken or weapons that are very weak, it does take a couple of meta updates to actually balance them out so that they're not the clear number 1 or number 2 choices, or never being touched, right? So it'll be a small bump to the damage, and then, okay, maybe that wasn't enough. A small bump to the range and damage, and see if that makes it work better. Or, you know, a nerf to its recoil control or its ADS speed, and they increase that, you know, update over update to balance it out some. That's what I get when they say they want as many weapons as possible to be viable. It won't be, hey, okay, this weapon's clearly the number 1 choice. Let's say, for example, the Holger 5.56. Okay, we're updating this, and it's nerfed into the ground. You'll never be touching this for a couple of seasons. seasons now. Sledgehammer did also expand on what weapon categories they're specifically looking at right now for some of those high-level changes, the various buffs and nerfs. They say that we want each weapon category to have its own distinct role for different playstyles. In the beta, we saw that some of the SMGs, the striker, were outperforming ARs at ranges that ARs should dominate, so we made some tweaks based on that. We are seeing a lot of data that the first SMGs a player unlocks are underperforming, and we actually saw this sort of get started with that patch note update from a bit ago, as they ended up buffing the striker and a little buff to the AMR 9 while also nerfing the striker 9. We should expect probably more expansions to those notes with season 1, more buffs to some of these SMGs that are underperforming, especially those earlier unlocks. We want to make sure that SMGs are dominant in the areas they should be. For close range TTK, ADS, speed, sprint to fire, general mobility, that's where they should excel. The data we have shows that the most used SMGs are underperforming, and that's not great. We are currently happy about where the Rival 9 is in the meta. We're looking at all the other SMGs with this in mind. So take the stats of the Rival 9 and basically say, okay, we're probably going to see buffs to the Wasps, the AMR 9, so on and so forth, to bring it more in line with the Rival itself in terms of its overall ranges, its ADS speeds, its sprint out speeds. That's likely what we're going to be seeing in this upcoming meta update. Now moving on, Sledgehammer was also asked about shotguns, and this is how they responded, saying, shotgun management is something the team is looking into. The TTK of this game does make balancing shotguns extra challenging, but it is important to us to make sure that we can carve out a space for these weapon types for people who enjoy playing with them. And as it stands right now, as far as the shotgun meta goes, it's basically just limited to the Lockwood 680 specifically. The Haymaker and the Riveter just really aren't it. The Haymaker is viable, you could use it. The Riveter in specific, not great whatsoever. It is getting hit markers everywhere. It's tough to outgun things up close, and a shotgun should be winning a lot of close range gunfights given the fact that that's where it's supposed to thrive. So this would also indicate to me that we're probably going to see some adjustments there to maybe bring the Haymaker and especially the Riveter more in line with the close range meta, so that they are a bit more standout-ish there alongside the SMGs, so that, if you're running around with a shotgun, you're not going to get outgunned by an AR or an LMG at 5 feet, unless maybe they were pre-aiming or you were stunned or there was something else going on in the gunfight, obviously, because a couple of those are pretty underwhelming. So some interesting changes, especially to the close range meta, already being teased and, detailed here a little bit. And then lastly, Sledgehammer did also tease a little bit more of some upcoming weapon updates for further on down the road throughout the seasons here within MW3. They were asked about the Spaz 12 specifically, and to this they teased a little bit more, saying there are multiple classic weapons from the Modern Warfare series that we're looking to add in future seasonal updates, including shotguns and sniper rifles. And obviously when you think of iconic Modern Warfare shotguns, you get things like the Spaz 12, the Model 1887s. For snipers, we're looking at things like the M40A3 or the Barrett or the Intervention, of course, the MSR potentially, looking back to the original MW3 trilogy. If they want to talk, iconic weapons or classic weapons from Modern Warfare, the rebooted trilogy, looking at MW 2019, basically, the Kar 98K is what stands out the most to me there. So we could have some very interesting updates for shotguns and snipers specifically further on down the road. That could be with season 1. It could also be further on, season 2, season 3, season 4, so on and so forth. But definitely cool to see that we're already getting a pretty decent amount of engagement in terms of the weapon balance and overall meta within MW3. Also nice to have the confirmation that every single season they are going to be switching things up a little bit, just so that we're not using the same guns on day 1 and the same guns on day 270, right? So we'll definitely keep our eyes peeled for any future weapon updates, any meta changes. You guys know I'm gonna have you covered with all the details right as they surface, so stay tuned for that alongside everything else going on in COD by hitting that subscribe button and turning on those post notifications. And if you enjoyed the video, do me a favor and drop a like on it on your way out. But that is going to wrap things up. Once more, thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time, take it easy, have an awesome rest of your day, and I'll catch you later. Peace out.